Greetings. Thank you for joining us, friends. This is Will with Perpetual Assets. Very excited to have my friend back on the line, Mr. Bix Weir from roadtoruta.com. Welcome, sir. How are you?
I'm good, Will. Doing very well. My wife Amy says hi to you and your wife, and I hope you guys are doing well down there.
We are doing great. Yeah, it's we had so much fun with you guys at Anarchapulco. It was a great conference, a good show. A lot of fun with like-minded people, and suppose we should probably just dive right into Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. I had exposure to Bitcoin 5, 6 years ago, right? I mean, we've been accepting it on our website as a payment method for 2, 3, 4 years now. Um, but I slowly dabbled into it. I went to a Bitcoin conference in Austin 3, 4 years ago. It was a big one. And it made my head spin. I came out of that conference literally saying, "This is gonna change the world. This is absolutely gonna change the world. Cryptocurrencies, the blockchain technology will." Um, but unfortunately, I didn't really vote with my wallet as heavily. I mean, I've dabbled in it over the years. Picked up a little here, picked up a little there. But then what's happened with really just the price movement alone in the last few months, it feels like we went to Anarchapulco, talked about a lot of cryptos, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to start dabbling in some of these smaller cryptos. And sure enough, I just start dabbling, and they're like tripling, like in a week's time. I'm like, God, I wish I'd done a little more than dabble. Anyway, buddy, let's talk cryptos. You've been really heavy on this hard fork issue, which I know is an extremely heated debate.
I think the heat's coming out of it
Do you?
because, well, a few things. I have been digging in deep since we got back from Anarchapulco because this is something that it's very serious for our future.
Mm-hmm.
I've been a long time advocate of gold and silver. That's been my battle for the last 17 years because of what gold and silver represent in a sound money economy. The Bitcoin thing has the potential to be even better, or it has the potential to implode.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually read a lot of Satoshi's writing in the last 3 weeks. That's exactly what he said. 10, 20 years from now, Bitcoin will either be the largest asset class in the world, or it'll be zero.
Wow.
And so this whole Bitcoin scaling debate is a gigantic deal because here's my take, and I believe my take is it comes from a different perspective than the hardcore Bitcoin people, and a different perspective from the programmers, and a different perspective than the miners.
Mm-hmm.
I come from the 17 years of battling the banks and the monetary system, trying to get a sound monetary system in place. And those banks are vicious and tough, and it's been almost impossible to take them down, although I think we're making great strides. What has happened in Bitcoin over the past year or so is that there's a core group of developers, really smart guys. It's like the smartest programmers in Bitcoin, who are trying to solve some issues with Bitcoin, issues about safety and security and malleability. Can it be hacked and things like that, and scalability. Can Bitcoin grow? It's grown so fast in a short period of time that they're running out of room on the blocks. Each block is basically 1 megabyte. I'm not going to get too deep in the technicals, but I actually learned a lot in the last few weeks. So these core developers, the guys who were mainly in charge of writing the software for Bitcoin, devised a way to fix a lot of these problems, and everything was kosher, and they thought they had done something good. But one of the things that they were doing was they were increasing the block size by like 70% to like 1.6 megabytes, which is like a short-term fix as far as growth-wise. And yeah, that would have been fine until it, maxes out again.
Mm-hmm.
And given the growth rate, they were figuring, there'll be a few years to figure out what to do next. Well, here's the problem. The problem is that in the way they fixed it, it would, over time, it would cost more and be much slower. Mm-hmm. And they didn't see that as a problem because right now, Bitcoin is seen as a store of value and not a means of exchange. Not many people use Bitcoin to go buy cups of coffee and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't see it as a problem. Well, halfway through, a couple people on kind of, I think Satoshi brought it up originally, although he has not said anything public, in quite a while. But I think he's like, well, wait a minute. If we go with this solution from the core miners, it takes away the means of exchange because it makes smaller transactions more expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And in a world that is changing so fast as our world right now with the banks, if the banks crash tomorrow and you had your choice of slow and expensive transactions or fast and cheap transactions, just for everyday transactions, you would obviously choose the slow and cheap. We're going to have to decide between going back to a banker system of money when the banks crash, or go to something else like gold and silver, some kind of gold and silver standard, or back to a banker solution, or Bitcoin was an option if it was fast and cheap and it was a means of exchange. What this SegWit does is it takes that completely out of the equation for Bitcoin, because if the banks crash and everybody says, oh, we can use Bitcoin, but the SegWit scalability problem is in there, the blocks would fill up almost instantly with a few billion people added to the Bitcoin network. And all of a sudden, it will cost $100 to buy a cup of coffee, and everybody will just dump Bitcoin as their means of exchange. That is it's a bigger way to look at it than just what these core programmers were doing. So people within, like Roger Ver, who really is the main proponent of using Bitcoin as a means of exchange, said, oh my God, look what you guys are doing. You're destroying the potential alternative to the banking system. And then I ran with that scenario and I said, okay, if the SegWit solution is implemented and the banks crash, Bitcoin will not be an instant alternative to the banking system. It just won't be, because it will be too expensive. The banks will offer up a solution. Most likely people will be so mad at the bankers for destroying the monetary system, they won't believe the bankers. So what do the people have? It'll go back to gold and silver, most likely, but Bitcoin won't be a choice. As a matter of fact, if it's not cheap and easy to use at that moment in time,
It'll crash.
It not only it will be the
cease to exist.
It will be kind of a target for people who hate rich people. Yeah, you preserve the value of Bitcoin, but you're just such a small minority of people who have it,
right?
And the world is in a problem. Every single human being on planet Earth will say, who's not in Bitcoin, will say, no, Bitcoin is horrible. That's part of the problem is you rich people, and then the 7 billion people in humanity will demand that their governments, because a new system must be put in place, and that new system must be better than the old system. So it will most likely go to gold and silver standard. But to have a gold and silver standard work, you're going to want money you trust and have Bitcoin on the side. I think most people would tell their government, pass every law you can to destroy Bitcoin. And that's all it takes. I mean, truthfully, Bitcoin is safe as long as only a few rulers and countries hate it. If every country and the people of the world hate Bitcoin, they can easily outlaw Bitcoin and destroy.
Turn off the exchanges, and then there's no there's no liquidity. Yeah.
Shut down the miners. Shut down power to anybody involved. Make it a fine of 10,000 years in jail if you even touch Bitcoin. Yeah. They can do that.
Well, and we're certainly not advocating for this, right? And
but humanity will be if Bitcoin is seen as something bad for humanity when the banks crash. On the flip side, if we do what the Bitcoin Unlimited guys are saying to do, is to keep the utility, do the hard fork, make a non-contentious hard fork so there's only one coin, do the hard fork and make it available for humanity to use as money, then you'll have every country in the world embracing Bitcoin because it's an amazing alternative to the corrupt banking system, and you'll have every government in the world passing laws to protect Bitcoin instead of attack Bitcoin.
Yeah. Yeah.
and make it 10 million years in jail if you attack the Bitcoin blockchain. So I mean, it really does come down to, we're going to have a choice between the banking system, which just crashed and destroyed the monetary system and is completely hated, to something new. And if Bitcoin is not there and available as a means of exchange at that point in time, then I think Bitcoin will be destroyed and we'll go to some kind of gold and silver standard. If it is available, I think gold and silver will still be used, but Bitcoin will be an amazing alternative to the current banking system. That's kind of my final thoughts as for 3 weeks of studying and thinking about this. And I think it's where Roger Ver is as well as the people behind him. And I think one of the main people behind him and writing the new code for the fork is Satoshi himself.
Interesting. Yeah, this is a deep one, man. I watched your video the other day about this, and I gotta say, I'm still torn to this point. I mean, I'm no IT genius, right? So I have
None
to.
of us are. None of us are.
None of us are, right? I mean,
it was computer geniuses fixing a problem, but they're so into their world that they can't see the bigger picture. The thing I've been fighting for 17 years, the bankers versus the gold and silver people, it's a much bigger picture.
Yeah.
And as I believe, these banks are going to crash in the very near future. And if the only two choices are something that can't be used by the people and something, that would be an amazing tool for humanity, I'd go for the tool for humanity for Bitcoin's price to rise. So anybody who wants the price of Bitcoin to rise because you invested in it, support Bitcoin Unlimited and the hard fork. It's already in the cards. The guys behind the scenes, what I call the good guys, have already decided they're going to go for the hard fork.
And this is what made me question myself, right? So I'm not an IT guru. All I can do is read the work from all of these guys, right? The core developing team, the guys behind Bitcoin Unlimited, both, and read both sides of the story and see what makes the most sense to me. I think that the blockchain technology is here to stay. No matter what happens to Bitcoin, if this hard fork thing, whatever, doesn't work, the banks collapse, and to your point, gold and silver is all we're left with, I have a feeling we're going to figure out a way very quickly, humanity will, to implement a gold and silver transactional standard based on a blockchain type technology. That's the future, I think.
Type. Yes.
It might not be Bitcoin. It might be Ethereum, or it might be some type of blockchain technology, or it could be another altcoin that's already in existence right now, right?
Or it could be, well, yeah. I mean, the technology has been invented. It's out there. Right. Amazing invention. The more I read about Satoshi Nakamoto, the more I'm just blown away. I do believe it was a core group of people within the Treasury and Fed and CIA who created it.
Good guys.
The good guys within that. I think Alan Green's.
So okay. So I read the work of this Andreas Antonopoulos. A lot of these guys that are on the core team that are brilliant. And I mean, you said in your video that you thought they didn't understand the utility need from the monetary aspect of Bitcoin, the transactability, the importance of that utility. And you might be right with most of that team.
At this point in time.
At this juncture, yes. And so what hit me, realizing, okay, Bix, I love you. I love you that you're so against the grain with this, right? Because it seems like it's just Roger Ver, the Chinese guy, and all of these deep pockets miners against everybody else. It seems like some sort of a coup type of takeover of Bitcoin. But
it's exactly the opposite.
What you're saying, no, it's what you know. Well, see what your studies have shown, right, about this conspiracy, the good guy, bad guy, the road to Ruta theory, right? The more I started thinking about it, the more it kind of makes sense, right? If Bitcoin is not about a store of value. That's not what gives it its value. It's the utility. It's the transactability. It's the fact that we can exchange a currency with one another from a phone or a laptop or an iPad without the US dollar payment system, without the SWIFT system. That is friggin' huge. That's the value. If we know that the banking system is collapsing, we know that most likely there's not even going to be a SWIFT USD transaction payment system, at least for some time. Okay, well, we're back. After being, Bix believes maybe we were attacked. We were literally just cut off. Neither one of us pushed a button at all. I was right in the middle of talking about how the real value in Bitcoin is its utility, is the transactability, is the fact that myself and any other third party with a phone or a laptop or an iPad type device can send currency back and forth to each other without the need for the SWIFT system, without the need for the US dollar settlement.
But the problem is that right now is a philosophical discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, the value for investors is the store of value aspects, and that's the thing that it's really a timing issue. You can say, look into the future and say, yeah, we're going to use Bitcoin for transactions, and I'm very sure that the core developers are aware of that, but they don't know how soon that need is going to come. They think that the banking system is going to clod along for the next 5, 6, 10 years,
Right.
and then someday in the distance, we're going to need Bitcoin as a means of exchange. I'm saying the banks are about to go now, and unless Bitcoin is available as a means of exchange now, Bitcoin will be destroyed because the people will be very angry at the past monetary system. The banks won't be in charge of setting a new one. And number two, Bitcoin won't be available for use if SegWit gets implemented, because if you get a million new or billion new people looking for a means of exchange on the system, it'll load up instantly, and you'll have 5-day wait times for confirmations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
anybody who's experienced that, I mean, just in the last few weeks, we've experienced it a lot. I mean, I had almost 2 Bitcoin transaction from a client that was delayed 36 hours. I mean, and so this guy paid for our services. We're thinking, did he pay us? Did he not pay us? He's thinking, did they steal my money? Do they have? I mean, that's not good. You can't, you can't do that.
But I mean, the Bitcoin core guys with SegWit, they do have ways around that. They do solve some scalability stuff, but they aren't seeing the necessity and urgency of what's going on. Because if Bitcoin is not seen as something that is helpful for humanity when the banks crash, it won't be the chosen means of exchange going forward. It'll put Bitcoin, if Bitcoin's not attacked by every government, which it probably will, if it's not good for the people will be very, very mad at anybody who's got any money. Mm-hmm. So if it's not good for the people, I would expect every government and the people of planet Earth to shut down Bitcoin. But if it is, on the flip side, if it is good for humanity, if you can place transactions fast and easy, come this summer on the Bitcoin blockchain, and it really will save us from the crashing of the system, then it's exactly the opposite. Governments and people around the world will embrace Bitcoin and erect laws and rules around protecting Bitcoin. That's what I think the core option, the option of doing a hard fork. It doesn't have to be a contentious hard fork. The contentious hard fork is the only thing that creates 2 coins. Mm-hmm. And, I think the biggest hard fork is the other one. The SegWit is what I would call a hard fork because it takes away one of the most influential and potentially strong aspects of Bitcoin. It takes away the means of exchange. Mm-hmm. I would say that's a bigger hard fork than leaving the means of exchange, just expanding the block size.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Anyway, so yeah, I 99% I argue with myself about this, mm-hmm. But I do have a lot of people who want to fight the fight. I had to disable comments on my the Bitcoin explanation video.
No, that's how heated this is. When you came out with that first video 3 or 4 days ago, I was literally texting with my partner Gus. He'd been up the night before watching some of these fork debate videos. And we were both, and I'm like, God, wow, how this, it was against everything that I was believing about this fork. And then this is why I love you and your work. It forced me to start to think about things from a different manner with an open mind. I'm not going to come at you and say, you dumbass, you're wrong. You don't understand the IT need, blah, blah, blah. But no, you're dialing into something bigger. regarding the monetary reset, regarding good guys potentially behind the scenes, hoping to steer things to where we don't all kill each other and eat each other. So no, it is a bigger picture type of thing, and it does make sense. One of my concerns, and I don't know if you can address this with your recent work, is the open source nature of Bitcoin. I mean, to me, that's one of the biggest benefits is the open source accounting ledger. The fact that anybody can go in there and verify transactions. Do we lose that with the Bitcoin Unlimited? I mean, what I briefly saw something about it being closed source. I don't know if that's. I don't know, honestly. Do you can you speak to that, or do you know?
Well, I think what they're talking about on closed source is that the software isn't out there being collaborated on by 105 different guys.
Currently, I see in its current format.
Because I think Satoshi's back there working on it,
gotcha.
Or if not already done with it. And now it just comes down to timing, because all the bugs that have been found in the Bitcoin Unlimited were found by hackers from the Bitcoin core team.
Right.
I mean, there's no doubt that Bitcoin Unlimited is getting censored. The other thing is, I got a lot of emails saying, Bix, you're censoring Bitcoin core guys by not allowing them to post on your videos, post comments. It's not it's only censorship if you remove one side of the argument.
Right.
I took it all off because of it was bad.
Yeah.
There's people going at each other's throats.
Yeah.
And the concept, a lot of people saying that Bitcoin Core just didn't relate we're bad at PR and all that. No, that's not true. Bitcoin Core made a gigantic mistake, and that mistake was removing a key component that will be needed in the near future from Bitcoin, and that's the means of exchange aspects of it. It's not that they had bad communication at all. As a matter of fact, their communication was better than anybody else, because they basically villainized Roger Ver and the Bitcoin Unlimited guys so that everybody thinks, oh my God, the hard fork's going to destroy Bitcoin. The hard fork is going to save Bitcoin, if you ask me. When the banks crash and Bitcoin is not available because of what SegWit would do to the means of exchange, then you can kiss Bitcoin goodbye, because no one would stand for any alternative to what is going to be chosen. And what will be chosen is it won't be a bankster solution, because we'll be so sick of the bankers at that time. It'll be a solution, probably gold and silver. But I would love if Bitcoin was available then. And if we just increase the block size, do the fork, a non-contentious fork, increase the block size, have the SegWit guys and the core guys still work on all those other fixes, which is great. But the urgency of getting it into the hands of the people when the banks crash is gigantic, and it's the only thing that will save Bitcoin.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that the difficulty with really analyzing what is going on with this fork, right, is so much of it is like you said. I mean, there are potentially attacks taking place behind the scenes.
There's no potential. They're attacking.
Absolutely, no question.
I mean, there are over 100 of the best Bitcoin programmers in the world, and they want their solution. Although I think a lot of them are coming around because they didn't think it was an immediate issue, this whole means of exchange thing. With my work, it's very clear that the good guys are winning and ready to take down the bad guys, which is the bad guys get their power from control of the monetary system.
Yep.
And once you take that away, the bad guys go away. And Trump's ready to pull that plug. Basically, the people behind Trump, they just are trying to get Bitcoin in a place that it's one of the viable options. Because unless Bitcoin is cheap and fast, it will not be considered for the next form of money that we have in the future.
Maybe that's what gave old man Rockefeller his final breath.
Yeah, exactly. It was a Bitcoin debate that he got in, and he died of a heart attack.
Oh, I'm just biting my tongue because I'm gonna see my mom. I love her so much, but I know what's gonna come up is the Rockefellers and what they've done for our education system, and how sad that he passed away. And Mom, he was a Satanist. Like,
yeah, we know what he did to our education system.
Oh, disgusting, right? So yeah, the immediacy of things is, gosh, I mean, I can't believe it's we're not seeing fireworks here. It's the end of March, March 24th today. Um, but do we touch on, man, the truth
We
bombs?
could go in.
Man, we could go all over the place, right? I
Yeah.
feel like the truth bombs are just so right around the corner.
Well, the first one was dropped by Trump. The Obama wiretapped
Mhm.
my office, the Trump Tower. That was Trump has said a lot of these things, outrageous statements that the media went off on,
Yeah, like
and
vaccines cause autism.
yeah, all that stuff that Trump said
Hmm.
is all going to be proven to be
Hmm.
true.
Hmm.
And that will give legitimacy to the Trump administration, even from the left.
Yeah.
When the left understands how much they've been manipulated by the press and by their leaders like Clinton and, well, it's not. I don't like saying the left because the Bushes and the Clintons are in the same camp.
Right.
They work together in this. It's the left-right paradigm. Bounce it back. The ball bounces back and forth. But when the liberals and the far left realize what the Clintons were really doing and the Obama clan were really doing, then I mean everybody's going to run in to support Trump.
Hmm.
Truthfully, I'm getting that road to root of vision again of a really great potential future if certain things happen. One, if the Bitcoin split happens and Bitcoin is cheap and easy for everybody to use, we can just jump onto a Bitcoin standard. And two, if everybody gets behind Trump and all the secrets are exposed,
Hmm.
can you imagine how great it would be to live in a land of something like that with sound money, with no more lies and no more secrets?
I think it's coming, buddy. I think it's coming. Your work. I was a student of your work 6 years ago, and 7 years ago, and it was an incredible breath of fresh air for me in this place of just darkness and evil. And it was right when I was waking up, right? So I was learning about all of this, discussing the Rothschilds and the control of money and slavery and all of this stuff that they've done, right? Including enslaving us. I'm not talking about 1800s America here, but that too. Uh, it's but anyway, your message, man, this theory of good guys, hopefully trying to again steer things into a better direction. And over the last 6 7 years, I'm seeing it kind of come true in different areas, and I'm seeing other people, other guys with microphones and gals in this space that not just have microphones, but that have data, that have done a lot of research, or that have a lot of connections globally. It's coming out in their work too. So I used to think 2 years ago, I thought I was just a Bix lover and optimist, just way too optimistic. This ship's going down in flames, and I would call myself an idiot sometimes. Um, but that is why when I watched your thing the other day about Bitcoin, it made me second guess my thoughts and my beliefs because of how deep this thing really is. But yeah, I mean, Cliff's last report, he talked about, and that's another interesting thing. In his reports, you don't see a whole lot of like death and destruction and cannibalism and all this crap, right? In fact, in his last report, he mentioned how uh, there was going to be a lot of positive energy coming out of the U.S. populace with these, specifically with new energy technologies. Like all of this incredible stuff has been hidden from humanity. I mean, I don't need to be a conspiracy kook to talk about this. Nikola Tesla. I mean, the guy
We're
had
all conspiracy kooks these days, my
right.
friend.
I know, right? This guy had energy technologies, radio wave, basically free energy technologies 100 years ago, 90 years ago. I mean, so what do they have now, right? So I think when a lot of these genies start getting let out of the bottles and we have these oh my gosh, we don't have to die from cancer anymore, whatever it might be, those are positive, right? Even though our banking systems might be collapsing around us and,
Well, everybody, that's the other thing. I mean, you look at the amount of people who are reliant upon the uh, the petro industry. Our world has to change, and it will change with the collapse of the banks because everybody's going to lose everything, all their electronic banking money. Anything third party related will probably go by the wayside with the collapse of, say, Deutsche Bank, which is on its knees again in Europe. I mean, Cliff has more positive stuff than he had in the past. He still has, death and despair and disruption throughout this year. His new report's coming out. He actually just posted a video today or yesterday about he's got a new RV. But at the end of his talk, he chimed in a bit about Bitcoin and what the data shows in his Bitcoin. And his data shows no bumps in the road for Bitcoin. So whatever we're discussing or arguing about right now,
we're in the bump right now.
We wouldn't, a couple years down the line. I think the core developers are extremely smart computer programmers, but they're also extremely smart people. And hopefully, as this information gets out from Roger Ver and the people behind him and myself, showing that we really do, I know they don't see it now, that the means of exchange part of Bitcoin is very important, but in a banking collapse, which, a lot of them are pretty good economists, they should see that that's coming right down the pike.
Exactly.
In a banking collapse, the means of exchange, if that is removed, then Bitcoin will not be an option for humanity to move forward. If it is kept in place and it's cheap and fast and easy to adjust from going to a debit card to using your iPhone to buy things with Bitcoin, if that is one of the options and humanity sees that as an option outside of these evil bankers, I mean, that's the core of what Bitcoin was all about in the first place. And I hope these programmers on the core side understand this. And I know some of them do. And I think if they listen to this this discussion or any other discussions about what's happening right now, I think they'll get it too, that it is an urgency thing, and the store of value aspects of Bitcoin are not the most important thing right now. The most important thing is to be available for humanity to make a transition.
Yeah, I would certainly agree with that. I mean, we can envision a post-banking collapse world where we're going to need transactional capabilities really, really badly. Gold and silver, it's the one thing that they lack. It's the one thing that they lack is a real fast, easy payment system, means of transactability, which again, blockchain technology might just be introducing into the metals in the near future, which excites me.
Well, imagine this. Imagine this discussion and debate within Bitcoin is going on, into the summer, and we do have a banking collapse. How fast will those core programmers say, "Oh my God,
on a dime,
we need cheap and fast Bitcoin transactions right now for everybody"?
Yep.
And there is no more discussion. Yep. So I think that's why I'm saying that this discussion is already over. In the background, it's already been taken care of by the good guys. And I think Satoshi, to say that Satoshi walked away from Bitcoin and never thought about it or worried about it at all, being the largest Bitcoin holder in the world with 1 million Bitcoins. And all these core guys are saying, no, he did his best, but we're better. No, you're not better. You didn't invent it, and it was a brilliant invention. And I do think he is working with the Bitcoin Unlimited guys to write the correct software. I think he faked those little bugs because the bugs weren't anything big. So I think he just threw that in there to cover up his tracks, because you don't want to have any kind of centralized figure in Bitcoin. And that's one of the main components of what Core is saying. Roger,
especially if it's Greenspan.
Well, that's purely my theory that, the world's number one computer programmer, the guy who invented electronic assets, the guy who wrote the paper on gold and economic freedom back in the 60s. My take is that, he's been involved with computer programming since 1963.
If he's not the guy, he was sitting next to him. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. If Greenspan's not Satoshi, and the more I read about Satoshi, because the last 3 weeks, I've been reading pretty much everything he wrote in his, as he was passing it off to Gavin Andresen and those guys, I read it and I'm like, this is Greenspan speaking here.
Wow.
I mean, it even sounded like everything he would say. I think because remember the Bitcoin protocol, according to Satoshi, he started writing it in early 2007,
Uh-huh.
the white paper, and started thinking about it. And when did Greenspan leave the Fed?
Right.
Late 2006, was it? Or
Oh, wow.
yeah. I mean, it lines up perfectly. I'm like, oh my God, there's just too many things that line up with Greenspan, monetary interest in monetary problems, interest in computers.
Computers, yeah. No,
He was
it's
the best computer programmer and
probably probably one of the smartest IT money guys alive today.
oh yeah, I
You
mean,
know?
he controlled the monetary system from behind the scenes without any computer programmers knowing about it. That's how
Wow.
good he is.
Yeah, that's true. That's yeah. He would speak in front of Congress and make people just confuse people. 3 sentences to
Well,
the
that he did that on purpose.
right,
He confused his own speech just so that no one asked him what he was really saying.
right.
So yeah, I mean, I think so. My take is, if you're a Bitcoin holder, just keep your Bitcoin outside of the online exchanges and online wallets. Keep it in a storage device offline,
Mm-hmm.
or I like the paper wallets because I like seeing my addresses.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I am still telling people, use Will's services for the self-directed IRA. If you have an IRA and you're still in the system, because you can buy Bitcoin with the self-directed IRA.
Yeah,
And
we forgot about the
you can
the
take it
plug there.
offline, and so you can have Bitcoin paper wallets in your retirement account without paying fees and penalties for an early withdrawal. I mean, can you imagine the price of Bitcoin when you are ready to retire at 65?
Yeah, it's no, that's a good point. I've done the same, basically had the same conversation with people about silver, because we use this structure for folks taking metals, and controlling storage themselves with the IRA, not metals in a depository, but under their mattress kind of thing. But yeah, with the at an Acapulco, Gus and I looked at each other and we're like, why are we not really marketing the Bitcoin in your IRA? And now's the time. I mean, I mean, you can. They have a Bitcoin IRA, but it's like a traditional one where the Bitcoins are held by a custodian and you never see them. And
don't want that. Third
no.
parties are going to go away, so that's a reason to take it out of the traditional IRA third party holding system.
Yeah, get it out of the exchanges, get it in your control, whether it's Bitcoin or other alt currencies or the metals themselves.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I would sum up our Bitcoin discussion because 99% of the people out there they have some Bitcoin as an investment. They're not they're not miners, they're not node operators, they're not programmers. Just sit back and wait and let it all shake out, because in the end, I think all these guys have the exact same intention for Bitcoin, that it's good and strong and they do well with it in the future.
Mm-hmm.
I think it will work out that way. And I give kudos to Roger Ver for being like the front guy I think he's the front guy for Satoshi himself to fight that fight. Because he has been taking a ration of shit from so many people in the Bitcoin community, and truthfully, he's right. If we have a banking collapse in the coming months, you're gonna thank God for Roger. You're gonna thank God for Trump and Roger. So there you go. You can thank God for Bix Weir too someday if they ever admit that the road to Ruta theory was correct.
Hey man, I think lots of people are already thanking God for you, buddy. I don't think that. I know that. I know that to be a fact. Actually, I work with a lot of your listeners come over and they become clients of ours. And yeah, I mean, when you have people that have their life savings or a good portion of their life savings locked up at Merrill Lynch or Fidelity or whatever in a bunch of mutual funds or treasuries that they can't even control, and then they learn about this where they can take their life savings and not pay taxes and penalties on it, but control it themselves and put it in any of these assets we just mentioned and store it, in a hole in their ground, it's life changing for people. It really is. And so, yeah, I've had people very much believe that, that there's a higher power that led them to this, via you. So we thank you, man. Yeah. Thank you for your work.
But truthfully, in what I try to do is not only tell people the conclusion I come to, but how I got there.
Yep.
And because we're all trying to figure this stuff out as we go. And sometimes the things I think of will completely flip based on new information.
Mm-hmm.
And because I was really against a hard fork too, and then I started thinking about it and learning about it. I listened to Roger a couple times. I'm like, oh my God, this is right along the lines of the road to Ruta.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's important. And these guys are smart. The core guys are smart. And then once the core guys come out and say, hey, we get it. We're still gonna implement a lot of this stuff in Segway. It's just that right now it's important to keep the means of exchange in place.
Interesting, man. Well, it's like anything else, time will tell. And again, like I said, the bigger picture. This is all about the bigger picture, and it's about us keeping an open mind. And I think a lot of your listeners on here aren't really hardcore Bitcoin aficionados. They've just bought a little bit because you told them to, or they
I explained it to them.
You explained it to them. I'm sorry. Yes, you explained it to them.
But still, I would still say, I mean, I am still 100% in the physical silver camp, because you've got 150 years of price suppression waiting to explode there.
Yes, you do, and it's still only $17. I mean, if you've got extra cash to do something with right now, and you're looking at Bitcoin, you're looking at some of these alternative currencies, $17 silver. I mean, it's just it's cheap. It's so cheap relative to the potential upside. I mean, for Bitcoin has to go to 100,000 a coin or whatever,
and it has to be learned by people.
Exactly.
Silver, literally, when they shut down the manipulation on the comics and the LBMA, it'll be an overnight thing.
Yeah, because we just have to be most people just have to be relearned, if you will, re-educated, because it's been money for 5,000 years, right? I mean, so. Well, buddy, great times as always, man. Is there anything else? We'll have links, of course, to Road to Ruta, to your website, all your work. There's tons of free material up there on your website. You can get on Bix's email list as well. He's pumping out. He's like a YouTube master now. He does a video like every day.
Everybody's like, what's going on with the YouTube? And truthfully, I'm putting 17 years worth of research into the YouTube community, which is a completely new community to my work, and they're getting it really fast because it's such an amazing medium to kind of show an idea. You can do it visually, you can do it with graphs, you can do it all kinds of ways instead of just writing about it.
Yeah. Just be careful not to talk about those certain hot subjects right now, or they might
cut us off again.
Right? Yeah. Well, yeah, man, it's always a pleasure. We should probably, we'll do this again in another month or two as things heat up and change quite a bit, because it feels like it's very close. Of course, it has for some time.
I agree. Hey, give out your phone number so people can call you about the self-directed IRA stuff.
Yes, it's our 800 numbers, 888-281-2630.
You can't call that an 800 number.
I'm sorry, it's an 888 number.
There you go.
Well, it's in the family of 800s, isn't it? Yeah.
I guess. I don't know. 888. What is it?
888-281-2630. Of course, you can go to our website too, perpetualassets.com. There's a bunch of information on there. But yeah, feel free to call us anytime. My business partner loves to chit chat, so ask for Gus.
I love Gus. How is he?
Oh, he's just as crazy as ever.
Does he have a girlfriend these days?
Oh, I don't know which one.
I don't know if we could talk about that.
Probably no. We might get cut off again. He's doing great.
Good.
Well, always a pleasure, my friend. We'll have links and have you on again in the near future. Thanks again.
All right. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, buddy.